Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. Just a couple of quick announcements, I guess. Um, Laura Jeannie Francis, she's gonna be taking some vacation time, so you probably won't see her. Um, Steve Burnson or Steve Jason Stone Cold. Well, he tested positive for COVID-19, so we probably won't be seeing him for a little bit. Yeah. I had something else, but then I realized that I was reading the wrong. Well, I was reading the right name, but I was reading the wrong. I was reading it for the wrong show. There's something on Soap Opera Digest that's talking about Sunny's recasting, and so automatically I'm like, gee, Sunny, what's going on? The problem with something like that is that there's a Sunny that's on days. That's like if they pulled out and they said, you know what, Ava's being recasted. Now, see, for me, I'm just like, well, which one are you talking about? Especially if you're have a picture of Cameron Madison, Steve, and Kelly Monaco there, and then on like the top right hand side it says Sunny's recasting. You're gonna automatically go to GH. So, just for anyone who actually read that, they're not talking about GH's Sunny. They're talking about Dave's Sunny. Because apparently, there needs to be two Sunnys for some odd reason. Now let's get into the whole Sunny side story thing for a minute. I don't know what to think of this scene. I have. I almost have no words for it when I first saw it because I was like, you saw Lenny and Phyllis outside, and Lenny looks like he's ran a marathon. We all at this point knew where this story was going. And it just seemed like it happened somewhat so fast. That's not to sit there and say that if somebody doesn't get what he has, they may not go, they may go just as quick as that. But it just seemed very odd that they just come back from the hospital, they're waiting for the biopsy, and then out of nowhere, you know, he passes. It just seemed like, I guess at some point, I don't, I just, God. We all knew it was coming. And I felt like it was coming in this episode. And the minute that Phyllis left, you already know. So, it was a sad scene, but it felt like something that you saw coming. You know? You already saw it coming. The minute that Sunny went outside, it was like, you already know. You already know. Of course, that happens. He's upset. He's heartbroken. And it's weird because I saw on Maurice Bernard's page, he's sitting there talking about Lenny and stuff like that, about being like, well, the actor, about being like really good friends and yada yada yada. So something between that and watching this episode, just the start of it, it's like I already knew where it was going. And of course, Sonny's sitting there talking to Nana about long-term plans and fishing and I have to tell you the truth, I wish I could be excited about that. I really do. I really wish I could sit there and be excited about that, but I'm not. I just can't fake that. Anyway, Sonny goes outside. He checks on Lenny. He realizes that he's gone. He comes back in there, and he doesn't even have to say anything. And Phyllis already knows. She drops the glass. You can already kind of guess what goes on at that point. Now, while Phyllis is outside, I guess just getting her last few moments with Lenny, Sonny's sitting there talking about. Now, at one point, Sonny's sitting there talking about, like, this ache, like. One second. He was like, this ache or whatever. It's like, it feels like I remember this, And he says, and I can't exactly remember what he says, but he says something along the lines of, maybe that's how whoever this person is that I was married to, or, whoever this other person is, must be feeling. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, it's not like you actually bothered to, I don't know, like, try to find out who you were. And it's just the simple fact that he actually said that, I was like, oh man, I can't imagine what that person must be feeling like, that they're missing me or something like that. Those aren't the words that he said, but it was something along those lines. And I was just like, and yet you didn't bother to sit there and try to find out who you were. So this whole talk is just kind of meaningless at this point. And Nina looks guilty, and it's the same, like, looks guilty today, and then the next time she'll be fine. So it's like, whatever sort of sympathy or whatever that some of her fans may be feeling, is gonna be gone. She's gonna just sit there and continue on, because it's not so much about guilt anymore. I mean, it's about guilt, but it's, well, about making sure her ass don't get caught. Wondering where to go next. Jax and Jason. I get where Jax is coming from. Like Brock TV, sort of like a good few minutes of his review. I get where he's coming from. The problem with Jax is that he has unrealistic expectations. He's like, do whatever you can, find a way to sit there and shut it down. And what happens when he does, and the next person comes, and the next person comes. So him sitting there acting like, well, Jason is just going to sit there and shut down all crime in Port Charles is ridiculous. Because honestly, to tell you the truth, that's what I felt like he was asking Jason. Just to make sure that there's no more rivals that's going to be sitting there coming your way, and Josh is going to be in danger. And Jason was like, I can't do that. I can do the best that I can. I can make sure that, Jocelyn has the best bodyguards, but that's the best that I can sit there and do. And it was such a... I don't want to sit there and say it was such a stupid conversation, but it's like, unless Jason would have said, I can guarantee you that Jocelyn's going to be safe, what's the point of having this conversation? It's like he already had his mind made up. And he's sitting there talking to Jason, asking him to give him something that he's never going to give. That no person can sit there and give. So, in some ways, I get where he's coming from, but you're also just wasting your breath. And of course, he doesn't get the answer he wants. It's like, oh, well, I'm just going to sit there and handle it myself or whatever. Or something along the lines of Jocelyn and Carly or whatever. I'm not going to lie. I kind of zoned out halfway through. But, he goes up to Dante. He actually says, oh, Carly and Jason took over the family business, the sketchy business. And I'm sitting there thinking, have you lost your goddamn mind? What the hell is wrong with you? What do you think is going to wind up happening? You think that Dante's just going to sit there and arrest Carly? Like, what was your plan? I don't, and you go to Dante out of all people to sit there and say, oh, by the way, Carly and Jason picked up the family business. Like, he didn't already know that. Oh my goodness. Sometimes with Jax, I'm just like, I mostly don't know how to feel about you some days. I really don't. But, he talks to Dante, and he realizes that he's a cop, and his hands are tied, so he can't really do too much of anything. And, Jax is like, well, I'm going to do something. Now, I'm sitting there thinking, Jax, what is it that you think you're going to do? Because unless you plan on somehow convincing Carly and Jocelyn that you're going to fly her off to Australia, that's the only way that you're ever going to sit there and feel safe. Have her feel safe. Or make yourself feel safe for her. Point is, unless you plan on flying this woman this woman, yeah, halfway across the world, there's going to be no guarantees that she's going to be safe. And let's be very clear. Even if he somehow does fly her to Australia or wherever, that doesn't mean that there's, oh, well, you know what? She's in Australia, so we can't get to her. No, if they want to sit there and get to her, they'll go to Australia and they'll get to her. Unless you plan on having your own bodyguards. Like, I don't understand, like, it's just, oh my God. I don't really, I get his fear and I understand where he's coming from, but he just has some unrealistic expectations about the reality of the situation, you know? And I'm like, all right, what are you gonna do? You just gonna have her live at your house, and what, hire your own people? Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what he does, you're still gonna blame them. Now, Carly is another stupid scene. Carly's sitting there talking to, I was gonna sit there and say Ghost Sunny, but it's really her subconscious, and she's sitting there talking about her worries about, you know, how it's going to change the relationship between her and Jason, and, you know, asking him or whatever, being like, oh, you know, you would approve, like, I know you were sitting there approving me being with Jason. I'm like, really? Really? Now, on one hand, I understand the idea that, you know, something happens to someone, and the only person you feel like is going to sit there and treat her right, with respect, love, honesty, and all that stuff is Jason. But again, for me, half of that stuff just kind of goes out the window because I'm just like, 1 second. It was like it was just going right through the shirt. Honestly, tell you the truth, if I sweat through this shirt, I'm just going to keep going. Anyway, she's having a stupid conversation with subconscious Sunny at this point about, you know, the relationship changing, and I'm just like, I just don't care. I haven't cared for a very long time. And the fact that she's like, you know, I know that he's gone and I have to sit there and move on. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but like there's like a billion men on this planet that you could sit there and do that with. And you choose his best friend. I'm never going to be okay with this. And I know I sound like a broken record, and so I do apologize for that, but every time Carly sits there and talks about Sunny, you know, talks about Jason being more than like this platonic friendship, it's just like, I don't care. I feel like it's gross. And I feel like in so many ways, it's just dishonoring him. You know, so all that talk, like every time she starts talking about Jason, I'm just like, I don't care. Even when, you know, Jason got back and he was like, oh, you know, welcome home, I'm just like, ugh, okay, whatever. Not gonna lie, Sam kind of got a little annoying in the beginning. She did. She really got annoying in the beginning. She's sat there with Sean talking to Jordan and Dante about, you know, what really happened to her. So she's asking questions. And Dante's like, you know, I can't really sit there and tell you too much, you know, during the ongoing investigation. And she starts getting all, like, bitchy or whatever. And she's like, oh, you can't tell me this, you can't tell me that. And I'm like, I get your frustration because you want to sit there and find out what's going on. But they don't work for you. Like, somewhere along the lines, did you just forget that? I get that Sam's supposed to come across as this spunky attitude type. And I'm like, know your place and slow your roll. Okay? They don't work for you. They don't actually have to sit there and be telling you half of the stuff that they're telling you. So, instead of actually being like, all, well, I guess, like, bitchy or whatever, why don't you just be grateful for the information that they are giving you? After that, well, pretty much, Sam and Dante have a talk, and they decide to go on a date without calling it a date. Yeah. And Jordan has a talk with, Sean about just living his life. Like, yo, listen, there's a good chance that you may not catch this person. There's a good chance. And she, you know, she also said, like, yo, if a different police officer came in and saw the situation, we might be having a different conversation. So maybe this isn't worth it. Like, you just got out, you want to sit there and have your life with TJ, you want to sit there and move on. Why don't you just do that instead of, you know, going down this rabbit hole, which may wind up getting into trouble or even worse? Because, I mean, listen, somebody tried, somebody wanted, Hayden to be gone and no one to find her up into the point of killing her own mother. You think they'll stop there? And, Sean took it to heart. He's like, yo, listen, I'll think about what you said pretty much. And, yeah, that was pretty much about it. Spencer and the gang. Jocelyn did something that I was just like, that's funny. I kind of thought that you said you weren't going to do that. And then you go on and you do that. As far as meddling, and actually tell you the truth, I'm pretty sure I put cock blocker there. But, when she's not there talking to Trina, they're getting ready and stuff like that. She's like, Spencer did some pretty bad things or whatever, or he's a messed up kid or whatever. And I'm like, wow. Now, granted, all the stuff that she said that he did, this was way back when, And so I'm just like, all right, if you know it was way back when, and you know that he's a good person, he has a good heart, then why are you bringing all this stuff up for? Like, did he do anything recently, lately, to sit there and suggest that, okay, he's still the same person that's just kind of wild and out of control and just kind of testing the limits until they break? No. So why the hell did you sit there and start talking about his past for? Especially considering, once again, you were just like, oh, I promised myself I wouldn't sit there and meddle in relationships, but I'm going to sit there and meddle in relationships because why? Why? What was the point of that? Anyway, so they have that talk. Trina's just like, all right, thank you. Now, Spencer and Cam had a talk pretty much about Spencer trying too hard, and I'm not gonna lie, I kind of somewhat didn't care a little bit, because I felt like in some sort of ways the way that Spencer was at there acting was kind of like going back on the whole, I want to sit there and show my rich friends about what authentic, real friends actually look like. Especially when he sits there and decides, oh, well, it's going to be a chic party. But don't worry, Cameron, I got something for you. It's from Milan, by the way. It's just like, what are we doing with Spencer? I don't understand. Every time that we start to move forward, we always got to find a way to sit there and step 3 steps backwards. I don't. So, yeah, after that, then they talk about they're going to get ready for the party. And then Spencer's like, I want to sit there and give you bracelets. This way you can have access to every part in the house. I'm just like, why do they need bracelets for it? Like, why do they need bracelets for it? I'm pretty sure the people who, like the guards or whatever, that's watching these places where the other kids can't go, know their faces. So what's the point of the bracelets for? I don't get that. But I know it's going to probably add up into something, and somebody's going to lose a bracelet and somebody else is going to get one, but I don't really understand that. I find it stupid, but whatever. And towards the end, everyone's getting ready. They're talking about the party and the kids coming there and stuff. And then you see somebody from behind coming up. Like, you see somebody walking up. Now, it's going to be very interesting how they actually do this, like this whole party or whatever, especially with like restrictions and COVID restrictions, and some people like now getting COVID and stuff like that. Like, how are they gonna sit there and just get like a bunch of people in that room? It's gonna be pretty interesting. Oh, and the last scene is when Jason talks to Brett. And I'm going to be honest, every time that they talk, it's just really difficult to watch, Because, at some point, Jason's like, oh, I came over there to sit there and say how you were, making sure that nobody came after you because of our history and stuff like that. And it's like, I get it, but, like, did you really need to go there yourself? Like, couldn't you have just sent somebody there to make sure that she's good? What was the point of that? You sit there and you want to make sure that she's okay because of your history, but yet you're going over there to see her. So it's like, it's not really that much history. It's like saying, I don't want to put you in danger by you being associated with me, but I'm going to sit there and come over there and check to make sure that you're okay. Like, what's the point of that? I don't... Anyway, they have this talk, and I'm going to be honest. All it really does is just break Britt's heart once again. I mean, she has an understanding that whatever decision that Jason's making, that is difficult on him as well. So she understands, I guess you can appreciate what he's going through. And there's one point where Jaxs is saying, I don't know what your relationship with Carly is, whether it's, love or like, some sort of like arrangement or something like that. And that's where Britt is like, it might be that. And either way, it really doesn't matter because they're getting married and that's just going to be that because, whatever. I think that's pretty much about it. This episode has been playing out just like the past couple episodes. And the thing about these episodes is that they haven't really been good. Don't get me wrong. There's been good moments within some of these episodes. But as a whole, it hasn't been good. It hasn't been good for a very long time. I was sitting there talking to somebody in the comment section, and I was like, man, I hope like Ryan like wakes up and like starts doing stuff this way it can keep me excited because it's like something needs to happen. Something needs to happen. A villain needs to come back or something. Now, they do have a villain right now, Joey Novak and whatever. So they are keeping things interesting. Jason's gonna be out of commission for a little bit, but eventually he'll come back. I don't know what's gonna go on with the Hayden Barr story. If they're gonna sit there and recast her. It was funny too, because when I was reading Soap Opera Digest and I was sitting there thinking about Sunny and the fact that it was like Sunny's gonna be recast. Now that I know it's gonna be Days, I was like, alright, fine. But in my mind I was like, would it be Sunny that's gonna be recast? And what would that be like? Now for me personally, I've been saying for a while, I said this from the start, I was like, if Jason and Sunny goes, like, if both of those two are gone, I'm done. Because I'm like, Sunny's my guy. But lately, I don't know, this morning when I was waking up and I was like reading and stuff like that, I was like, if Sunny leaves, or if they have to recast, would it be that bad? Now, obviously, I'm not going to lie, it kind of would be, but at this point, they've been doing episodes where Sunny hasn't even been on there. And it's been, like, fine. So, in some ways, I'm kind of just like, well, if they decide to just not have Sunny on there anymore, I'm like, alright. I'm like, alright, cool. And don't get me wrong, as far as the recasting go, I'm not a fan of recasting. I'm not. But I'm a fan of getting the story done with. So, with Sunny, no. Because even though some people don't like him, he's been on the show so long that he can improv his lines. It's sort of like Susan Lucci, Like when she was on, like, All My Children, I'm pretty sure after a while, there was just stuff that she would just sit there and read and like, maybe it'd make more sense if I sit there and say that instead of this. And he probably just went with it. Because she's been on there for so long, she's been playing that character for so long, why not? I'm just kind of rambling, so if you want to kind of cut it, it's fine. And, when I was sitting there talking about Jeannie Francis, or Jeannie, whatever her name is, Laura, talking about, the actress going on vacation for a little bit, but she'll be back in the fall. Somebody wrote, why don't she just stay gone? Because, like, Smith is saying that her character has ran her course. And some people were so not happy about it. And they kept saying things like, oh, she's an icon, she's a super icon. And I'm like, yeah, that's nice, but if you're not actually doing anything with the character, what's the point? Like, just having a character there just to be there doesn't do anything for anyone. And so I'm just like, all right, you know what? I'm okay with it. You know? I mean, listen, Laura and Luke had an amazing story way back when. And Luke is gone. And Laura's still there. If they give her something to do, fine. But if she's just there just to be there, it's like, is she really needed? Also, Emma. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name right. You know, she was on Soap Opera Digest. She was sent there saying that her character isn't dead. Because apparently some people think that her character is dead. And she's like, my character isn't dead. You know, as far as like, you know, I can return back anytime or whatever. And somebody was, you know, once again sent there saying that, you know, she's ran a course. I'm just like, if they give her something to do, great. I felt like the last couple of, like, there's been episodes, there's been months where their character's just kind of there to be there. I don't know. I've never really been a hardcore Lulu fan or a fan of hers, so I'm kind of just like, I don't really care if she's there or not. But I don't know. I wouldn't sit there and say her characters ran a course. I'll just sit there and say I don't really care if she's there or not. Like, it doesn't make or break the show. Anyway, with that being said, I'm going to go. I want to thank everyone for watching. Be safe. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. See you in the next video.